Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to another Minecraft discussion on this glorious day. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and once again, I am just thrilled to have the privilege to be able to host a podcast and have these super meaningful discussions. And today, I'd like to discuss the neuroscience sort of underlying mindfulness. Like, many people think, oh, that's a touchy-feely, and no, it's not. We can actually see brain changes on an fMRI. So I'm also not going to, stab pins in everybody's heads, killing you with statistics, but I'm going to give you a little bit of just sort of a couple of research based facts just to really drive the point home that this is so real. We know that mindfulness heals physically, mentally, spiritually, everything. And so I want to give a shout out first to Sarah McKay. And I think many of you know, next to or in addition to or whatever, John Kabat-Zinn is probably at the top of the mindfulness gurus, and then Deepak Chopra also. And so Deepak has his own, well, they both do, has his own website, and Sarah's a writer for his website. And so this is a really nice, kind of down to earth chat that I want to have based on Sarah McKay's article, and it's just so important to realize that these are real brain changes when we practice mindfulness 5 to 15 minutes per day. The lifelong impact is huge, absolutely huge, for memory and creativity and just general focus and reactivity, all kinds of things. And so this is what we're going to chat about today. So to begin, I have my chat with my mind crafters, the college course that I teach at Champlain College in Burlington, Vermont. We start out with this because day one, mindfulness and gratitude are definitely the foundational, two of the biggest foundational bricks for the course. So we talk about what mindfulness is. So basically, it means paying attention and without judgment to the experiences we are having in this moment right now. And John Kabat-Zinn would add in, as if your life depended on it, because it does. The only life we got going is in this moment right here, right now. So we have the non-judgmental piece. I think this is really important. Okay, so we're attenuating whether you're doing the dishes, you're sewing, you're playing soccer in a pickup league, you're gardening, you're having a conversation, you're on the chairlift, you're having a shower, you're having 5-star sex with your partner. Good for you, as long as it's loving, respectful, and consensual. Be in your body, absolutely. So it's really just about being in the moment. And that's one of the things I love about it most, because it means, and not that the other forms of meditation aren't good. Of course they're good. It's kind of like, I don't know, taste for anything else, like movies or food, or, you got to find what fits for you, or like a shoe, right? But I love mindfulness personally because it's not about carving out time to yet add to a to-do list. And if that's how you're thinking about it, John Kabat-Zinn would say, not ready, because it's not about doing. It's mindfulness is about being, not doing. And we can do anything mindfully. It's just about being in the moment. It's not about, you can sit palms up in a lotus position, eating yogurt in a cave like a Tibetan monk, but you don't have to. No offense to monks. I love monks. But it's about, taking a hot shower without bringing, your colleagues in there, and, your students in there, and your classmates in there, or your friends, and the person you have to have a meeting with on Tuesday, and you're nervous about that, or bringing the relatives you don't like in there, or bringing whoever in there. We want to keep everybody out of the shower, unless, of course, that person's real, and then, good for you. So and it's so addition to the non-judgment piece, we have the it goes with you. Mindfulness on the go, right? Because especially for those of us in the Fast Mind Club, you got a better chance of seeing the good Lord himself than, for me, having me be relaxed, sitting. My husband will say, "Oh," and he now knows, of course, better. We've been married for like 1,000 years, but come sit on the couch and watch a movie with me. And sometimes I will. Board games are my nightmare. Usually, I can occasionally do a fast paced Monopoly game because it's moving quickly, but I just don't relax that way. I relax when I'm in motion. So mindfulness really works for me and my wiring. The non-judgmental part is so super important, because, and my students and I have a discussion about it each and every semester, typically in the beginning, usually on the first day, and maybe there's rollover into the second day, because we really talk about the non-judgmental piece, because Many types of meditation, again, they're good for you. This is just if you got to find the fit. Many of them are about kind of creating a thought vacuum. Just push the thoughts out, and like mantra, 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 and that can be great if that works for you. But mindfulness is not about that, which also works for the fast minders because thoughts are going to continue to roll through. And John Kabat-Zinn talks about like waves on the ocean. You got to learn how to surf. You're not going to stop the waves, right? And so when an anxious thought kind of rolls through, we acknowledge this as okay. There went an anxious thought. So what? Who cares? And welcome to the human race. And my students, I watch them almost get lighter sitting there because this generation, and a lovely, young, lovely generation of young adults, we've never seen in this, at least the United States anyway, a more anxious and depressed generation of young adults than who's currently in my classrooms. Like, and I mean, me, obviously, I mean broader sense. And so they're very very afraid of failure. They're very anxious, and it's nice that they learn that mindfulness is at least one thing you can do without worrying about doing it wrong. If an anxious thought comes through, you say, okay, apparently I'm a little nervous today. Okay, so the hell what? Okay, as far as the benefits, I mean, mindfulness is the gift that keeps on giving because we feel more relaxed in the moment doing it. Doesn't mean we're not talking about perfect. That's a word I don't like. Anybody listens to the Minecraft episode, you're better off dropping the F bomb than using that word towards you for yourself or anybody else. So it's about progress and not perfection. So if it doesn't mean you're fully relaxed, but you're more relaxed. And in that moment, and then it's cumulative, kind of like running. If you run 4 or 5 days a week and then or 6 days a week, and then you have a 3 day stretch where you didn't feel well or you were on vacation or you had a wedding to go to with all kinds of rehearsal dinners and you fit it, just it was just too hard. You're still in better shape even though you didn't run for 3 days because you usually run. So if you are usually being mindful, you're going to extend your life. You're going to be in general more focused. So again, even if it's not in that minute, it's later in the day, you will be more focused in general if you practice mindfulness, which again means being in the moment. If you're doing the dishes and being present, that counts. So, and more relaxed. And it also, when we practice mindfulness, it sort of immediately shifts our mood into a more positive mind space. And it gets easier to make the shift when we practice consistently. So, and also overall well being, it enhances our overall well being. We also become more aware of ourselves. I mean, you cannot go wrong becoming more self aware. It's just absolutely huge. And physically wise, our immune systems become stronger when we practice mindfulness. And I read an article eons ago, so I can't really quote it. I can just give you the general gist. It was super empirical, um, very legit hospital based. Because when anything's hospital based, it's ultra controlled, so it's super credible and reliable, or reliable and valid is what I should have said. Because I think it was either 2 or 3 times a day. I forget, short amounts of time, like 15 minutes. And I believe the trial was over several months, and it was with type 2 diabetics. They had a good sample size. And by the end of it, they controlled for all the other stuff, diet and exercise, all that stuff. By the end of the few months, it was 70 something percent of the type 2 diabetics were completely off of insulin, completely off of insulin. And, I mean, that's pretty amazing. Then to take it a step farther, they actually looked at the pancreatic cells, which I believe are called the islets of Langerhans, and they saw changes in the actual cells. So granted, I'm taking this from my head from some years ago, but that was the basic gist, is that the majority of the type 2 diabetics made significant, cellular progress by practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness heals the body, heals the mind, and heals the spirit. And in the Chopra site, when Sarah McNally's talking about neuroscience, she talks about a couple of studies. So meta-analysis, just in case there's some folks who are listening and don't know what that is. Basically, that's somebody who it's not original. It's kind of basically somebody does a study on lots of other studies. So they kind of pull 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 studies together and kind of find out the commonalities and all of that. So it's kind of like a broad taste of whatever it is you're trying to look at. It can be very helpful with something like this. So the first meta-analysis was 47 trials and over 300, sorry, not 300, 3,000 participants, over 3,000. I think it was closer to 3,500 actually. And that's a good sample size. Whenever you're looking up legit stats, you want to look at the sample size because if they surveyed, 5 people in the backyard, it's really not a study you wanna pay a lot of attention to, I'm just saying. Okay, so over almost 3,500, participants, and they found that the mindfulness practice decreased levels of anxiety, decreased levels of depression, and decreased physical pain. Huge, absolutely huge. Then there was a second meta. This one, looked over 163 studies and found that mindfulness practice also led to a decreased feelings of negativity and neuroticism. So, neuroticism is one of the big 5 in the personality test. So, if you don't basically, it means when somebody's neurotic, it means wound up like a top and on edge most of the time, if we just put it into regular words. And, it decreased that, and the impact of mindfulness meditation or practicing mindfulness was also comparable, there we go, to certain therapeutic treatments such as counseling and some other behavioral treatments. Can you imagine mindfulness, being present in the moment, reducing anxiety, reducing depression, reducing physical pain? And in some cases, because we're a disclaimer, we're not saying it's meant to take the place of professional counseling or anything. It worked though. For some people, it worked, and it did the trick. And it worked as a great complement, certainly a great complement to cognitive behavioral therapy or any of the other forms of therapy as well. So then there's also another one in Sarah McNally's article. She talks about last year. So this is 2020. Okay, so this would be I guess 19 must be. The Journal of Nature Reviews of Neuroscience, and the review, the Neuroscience of Mindfulness Meditation, took a look at the current state of neuroscience research on mindfulness meditation. The authors included Yi Yuan Tang, a mind body medicine researcher at the Department of Psychological Sciences, that was at Texas Tech University, who also practices Chinese medicine. And then another author, Britta Holzel, a neuroscientist and yoga teacher at the Department of Neuroradiology, and that's the Technical University of Munich. And lastly, an author, Michael Posner, a psychologist at the University of Oregon. So here's the thing. So then Sarah talks about this is freaking incredible. Although meditation research is still in its infancy, it's getting big now, though, I'll tell you that. Um, a number of studies have investigated changes in brain activation at rest and during specific tasks that are associated with the practice of or that follow training in mindfulness meditation. This come from the authors I just mentioned. So now here's what's so freaking cool. There's emerging evidence that mindfulness meditation might cause neuroplastic changes in the structure and function of brain regions involved in regulation of attention, emotion, and self-awareness. This is so huge because for those of you who may not know what neuroplasticity is, it's not plastic like, Fisher Price, you know, cars and trucks plastic. It means that the brain is malleable and flexible and actually wants to heal and is very good at healing itself. Very, very good at healing itself. And this is a huge breakthrough that we're kind of getting, that when we remain present in the moment, we can actually increase our self-regulation, which means, controlling our emotions basically. So we don't fly off the handle as easily. We can sustain attention longer, hold it together longer, right? And as far we can go deep within and become more self-aware, all by remaining in the moment. You could be doing the dishes and having this stuff happen. It's absolutely amazing. Okay, then there was another meta that they talk about in this article, and there were 21 neuroimaging uh, studies examined what over 300 experienced meditation practitioners. This is amazing. With my doctorate in cognitive psych, I could literally talk about neurons and brain activity all day long and not have one bored second. And when you put them together with well-being stuff, my happy bubble is just so full. All right. So anyway, some of the brain regions that we know for a fact based on fMRI brain scans, okay, are the rostrolateral prefrontal cortex. Okay, so not to babble anybody to death, the PFC or prefrontal cortex is the part that's right behind your forehead and is responsible for all the real big stuff, like all the metacognition. So that means thinking about thinking. And that's where um, uh, where we plan, organize, judge, decision making, reasoning decision making, problem solving, all that sort of thing. And we know that that is in a better place, okay, with meditation. Then the second one is sensory cortices and insert cortex. So the main cortical bulbs are the processing of tactile information, such as touch, pain, conscious proprioception, and body awareness. That's amazing. So it's probably the parietal lobe they're talking about. And then the hippocampus, this is a biggie. Stay with me if you're not science people, because the hippocampus, there's one on each side of the head. It's kind of like where you if you wear glasses, where your the glasses would kind of fall on your ears. That's where your hippocampi are, one on each side. And the hippocampus is part of the limbic system, which plays a huge role in the formation of long-term memory. So just, let that take you away, because therefore practicing mindfulness, if it affects, the long-term potentiation of forming long-term memories, just think of how that goes really well, especially with cognitive decline as we age. Practice mindfulness, you're going to be such a better spot. Okay, the next one is anterior cingulate cortex and mid cingulate cortex. So these cortical regions are involved in self-regulation. Huge. Again, that's being able to recognize what our emotions are, like I'm frustrated versus angry, and then holding it together when we're frustrated or angry. Okay, emotional regulation, attention, and self-control. So we're talking about um, the overall ability to acknowledge how we're feeling and then manage those emotions in a calmer, more appropriate way, which can only go to good places, right? When we kind of take some deep breaths and don't, even if the person deserves us to give us some snark and they deserve some snark back, when we practice mindfulness, we are in a much better place to be able to take the high road, and it just works out better for everybody, right? And then the last one here that they list is the superior longitudinal fasciculus and corpus callosum. So the subcortical white matter tracks that communicate within and between brain hemispheres. So basically, the corpus callosum is kind of like the bridge in between the two hemispheres, and just this can all this the communication between the two, this can only go good places, only go good places to practice mindfulness. Okay, and if that isn't exciting enough, there were some more specific ways that certain brain regions were changed by mindfulness, and this is so freaking huge. Density of brain tissue. Okay, so the thickness of the cord, it's like bark on a tree. So the thickness of the cortex, this outer layer on the brain, is very related to our ability to think and process. So the cortical surface area and white matter is the part of the brain that's just loaded with myelinated nerve cells, which means that the communication is also enhanced. It also talked about the glia cells, which are kind of like the super glue in between, which also enhance communication. So it's in essence, practicing mindfulness is helping the brain to function like a well-greased machine. Isn't that exciting? So, because so many regions of the brain were found to be involved in mindfulness meditation, including the cerebral cortex, again, bark on a tree, right? Subcortical white and gray matter, so that's myelinated and unmyelinated neurons, the brainstem and cerebellum. The cerebellum is so important too, because the cerebellum kind of is involved in our lots of things, but our balance, voluntary movement, even like, driving a car, touching the steering wheel, kicking a soccer ball. I mean, this is amazing stuff we're finding here. So the authors, Tang, Holzel, and Posner, suggested in their view that the effects of meditation might involve large scale brain networks and multiple aspects of brain function. Isn't that freaking sensational? Okay, and this is also quite interesting, because the authors talk about this, and they say one hypothesis driving emotional regulation is that mindfulness meditation strengthens prefrontal higher order cognitive thinking. Okay, so that the PFC is involved in all this high order thinking. Processes that in turn modulate activity in brain regions relevant to emotion processing, such as the amygdala. Oh, that's so huge, because I'm sure many of you are aware the amygdala is personally my favorite part of the brain, but that's not the part I was saying. I love the amygdala. It's the amygdala is part of the limbic system, a key player in the limbic system, which is involved with the fight or flight. So many people kind of know that the amygdala flips the switch on. Do we stay and, bring out our ninja skills when something, dangerous is or threatening us? Or do we run? And also now they've also added the freeze. So the fact that it's involved with sort of taming the amygdala is huge. And then they also go on to say that a number of brain imaging studies appeared to support this hypothesis. It's just all super interesting. Um, and then the authors talk about the Buddhist philosophy teaches that identification with the static concept of self causes psychological distress. Studies of mindfulness meditators have shown training to be associated with more positive self representation, higher self esteem, and higher acceptance of oneself. I don't know. That's all I need to know right there. Just to spend to just decide, like, make a choice, just to spend 5 to 15 minutes per day out of the life minutes that I should do the math on that. Would be kind of fun. How many life minutes in 24 hours a day? But you got to like take away the sleeping ones, kind of conscious waking day, and figure out taking only 15 minutes out of all those life minutes for one day to just be present in your life and look what happens. And then they talk about such concepts are not easy to capture in neuroscientific studies. However, multiple studies show the insular is strongly activated during meditation. This is thought to represent amplified awareness of the present moment experience. That right there has me sold. Man, this shift in self-awareness is one of the major active mechanisms of the beneficial effects of mindfulness meditation. And that's what these authors say. This is just, like, let's start doing it now, right? Start being more present in your life right now, because here's the thing. We only have so many life minutes, right? And we take them for granted. They're our most valuable, precious commodity, are our life minutes. And I think we often don't think of that, and we just let them slide down the drain. If they circle the drain, they're gone forever. And I know for me, I'm going to want, with that 15 minutes back, when I'm 90, skydiving. And also it can prevent a lot of decline. So if you don't want to, sit on somebody's porch, with an Afghan over your lap making a basket, this could really help. Some of it we can't help because there's genetics involved, but a lot of it we really can. And I think people don't realize how much control we have, over our mind health. We're so quick. We kind of know to drink the OJ, yet we don't realize we've got to also nurture the mind. The mind is what creates what we're doing every day. We're authors of our own script, and if we just let the mind kind of get soft, it's not going to go anywhere good. We've got to be in the moment if we're going to grab life by the ass and live a fulfilled existence. That's just how it is. And then the authors kind of just wind up with, as far as future questions for people researching mindfulness, that I think they're pretty hopeful that the practice of mindfulness might be promising for treating clinical psychological disorders, and also facilitating the cultivation. I love that word. It makes me think of farm, rich dirt, and harvest. Anyway, cultivation of a healthy mind and increased well-being, right? Sound mind, sound body, sound spirit. All right, so there you have it. The neuroscience underlying mindfulness. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from Northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.